All right, everybody, welcome back to the Fighter Pilot's Guide to Living. We're sitting back down with Hooter. And Hooter, we were just talking before we hit record, and we found out you were holding back on us with a really cool story that you wrote for an English publication. So rewinding back to the F4 days, can you tell us any interesting takeoffs you had on an F4?
You want to go there right
Just
now?
leading it in.
Yeah,
It was so slick.
let me sweeten this up with the picture.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Let's look at the picture first.
This is the picture.
Not traditional AB going on there.
Not traditional. That is correct. Just a regular launch off the Coral Sea, waste cat. Everything looks good in the cockpit, but as we take off, before the gear is up, we hear, "Hey, Phantom off the waist, you got a fire in your tailpipe," which is an emergency in a Phantom. There's an actual emergency procedure for that, or tail fire in the back end of your airplane or something like that. So I'm looking around. The back seater doesn't see anything. I don't see anything. I'm going like, I'm in afterburner. There should be fire in my tailpipe. Bring it out a burner, and the tower comes back and says, "Fire's out." I go, "Working as designed." Okay, that's good. My back seater was a very experienced Vietnam Rio. He looks up in the MiG mirror that the Phantom has on it and goes, "I think we have a fuel leak." Because he looked back and he could see the vaporized fuel going behind him. So we got a F8 Crusader RF8 come by and check us out. He had just taken off the bow cat. Joins up, takes some pictures, and says, "Yeah, you've got like a 6-foot slice in the right side of your centerline fuel tank." So we do all the stuff we need to do to pickle it off, and we pickle it off, and it falls and makes a huge splash, and there goes whatever a fuel tank costs and whatever gas was in it. But no big deal as far as we were concerned. But the ship brought us back early, and so we recovered, landed, everything's fine. Get out, and kind of some people met me in the hallway. "Oh man, that was a huge fireball." I'm like, "Yeah, glad you guys are okay." And yeah, we saw nothing. We're fine. Fill out the paperwork and telling stories in the ready room, and I want to watch the launch and see what it looks like. And the skipper walks in, Hoss Pearson, who eventually becomes the CEO of the Blue Angels. He grounds me on the spot. "Hooter, what are you thinking?" Like, "Skipper, why are you grounding me? I mean, it doesn't make any sense." He goes, "What's the emergency procedure for tailpipe fire in a Phantom?" I said, "Pickle the stores." He goes, "You landed with all the stores. Why?" I'm like, because all I heard was fire in the tailpipe and I was in burner. I pulled it out of burner and everything was fine." So he's reading me the riot act, telling me I'm grounded until I do a closed book, an open book. They just a closed book emergency procedure test. And you remember those, you just go through what are all the emergency procedures, what are the bold items you have to know. So I do that and I'm fine. Well, while I'm, doing that, CAG walks in and just pokes his head into the back of the ready room, doesn't want any attention on deck or anything. Skipper's right up front. And CAG just says, above everything else, he just goes, "Hooter, good job keeping those missiles. We don't have many of them. Nice to have them on board." And then he walks out.
Yes, I'm not
So I
grounded.
look at the skipper. I don't even say anything. I might have said something. "Do I still have to do this test?" He just said, "Do the test." So I did the test, handed it in, and I flew later on that night.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced to this day that it was a good cop, bad cop scenario. So
Okay.
the skipper's doing what he has to do. The CAG comes in and says, "Good job," and then I get to take a test.
That's
So
pretty, yeah.
that's
I
what
mean,
it
if,
was. The picture comes from an Australian journalist who was on board for something. We must have
oh,
been
wow.
down near Australia. And he had taken a picture of it. He was standing, in that area where you can be with the catapult officer and all that.
Hmm.
And he just happened to be taking pictures of airplanes taking off, and this happened. And what actually happened was, and Taco, you don't even know about this. Do you know what a Van Zelm track is?
Is that the track at the end that had like the dips at the
The
front of the
diving
boat?
boards?
Yeah.
Kind of,
Okay.
yeah. Because the Phantom and earlier airplanes, I think F-8s had them too, had these bridles that you would put on the airplane, and that's what actually took you down the catapult track. It was this bridle that just yanks you down there. You get slingshot off the boat, and there's these big brass rails about, I don't know, 2 feet to the right and left of the catapult track, and you unbolt those rails to inspect the Van Zelm track, and one of them broke as we're coming down the track. So a big chunk of brass pops up and hits the centerline tank, punctures it, rips a hole inside, and off we go. The gas is going back into the burner, so it's behind me by a pretty good distance. And we don't know anything. There's no indication that I'm leaking fuel or anything like that, just a fireball. So it was absolutely no good reason for me to clean off the airplane. It was flying well and no big deal. And so that's the story of that picture. So,
Do you have, did the Tom or the F4, sorry, have like a accurate totalizer? Like, would you be able to tell that the center line tank is
no,
leaking? Okay.
center line or wing tanks don't add up. It would, we had, I think the total we could show was, I want to say 17 or 18,000 pounds, which was wings and all but your feed tank. And I think the feed tank was like 600 pounds,
Okay.
something along those lines. It was very complex. There were like 8 fuselage tanks, and we had 4 wing tanks, I think, in each wing, and they fed each other and all sorts of stuff. But the drops didn't show up at all.
So you just calculated the drops like, hey,
Yeah.
first 15 minutes, they're good and they're gone.
Yeah, the centerline drop is first thing that would burn, so that'd be gone immediately, and you'd punch it off if you're going into combat.
Yeah, because they weren't like, so the tanks, we had in the Super Hornet, have in the Super Hornet, not necessarily meant for punching off. You can, but more
Cheap
expensive
tank.
were. Yours were like, weren't they lined with cardboard? I think somebody told me, and you guys would just punch those off whenever.
No, they
Maybe
were
that was early.
metal.
Maybe that was
They
Korea.
were big. I mean, it would have been great to have that buried in your backyard and fill it up with gasoline for apocalypse day, because that's a lot of fuel that goes in there.
Yeah. I saw in Vietnam, whether during war or after the war, the Vietnamese would cut those in half and turn them into like canoes.
Yeah,
And so they would
yeah.
Wow.
repurpose them, yeah, into
I do have a test pilot friend who threw one of those coming into the break at uh, whatever, one of the Air Force bases in Utah.
oh, a
He
hill?
came in. Oh, he had a wing tank on, because we used a wing tank as a blivet. You would put baggage and stuff,
Okay.
Coors beer if you were going back east. Uh, so he came into the break and overstressed the airplane and threw the blivet, I don't know, a mile and a half, and it landed on the golf course. And he
Coors
got
and
close to the pin.
Coors intact. Like, oh, guys, open it up and there's the 19th green.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, he said his clothes were just shredded. He
Oh,
said
okay. Oh,
everything was,
it was actually full from across country.
yeah.
Oh man, that's it. That sucks. Got to go buy some new clothes
Tennis
at
racket survived though. Tennis racket did survive.
Wow.
there you go.
Yeah.
Wood tennis
Who
rackets.
knew?
Is that the same stuff that F-14 pilots I know used to put lobsters in anything they could? They'd go up north bring back lobsters? Is that what they put it on, or is
I don't,
that a different,
yeah, probably.
like,
The
okay,
F-14, I don't think I didn't ever carry a blivet, but they
okay,
might have had those, like a 300-gallon tank or something that you put on the side, and it's got a big hole cut in the side of it, and you throw your stuff in there. I
okay.
brought oysters back once in an F4. Man, they did not smell good when we opened.
Uh, can't imagine. Yeah,
Did
it's
they like
nasty.
cook or something? I mean,
No,
oh,
yeah,
They should
no, I'm just,
freeze.
oh,
we stayed
yeah.
as high as long as we could, but you come back into Miramar, it gets hot pretty quick, and we took them out, and it was a 50-pound bag, so we got rid of a bunch of the stuff that was
Yeah.
kind of warm. The back of and I put them in the back of my car, so the trunk smelled like dead
Just
fish for the rest of the
never got that smell out.
Oh,
So, okay, don't do that again.
Oh man. Yeah, I've definitely
so
heard a couple of those stories of doing like what are they, the four corners where somebody goes and gets beer, somebody goes and gets lobster from Maine,
Yeah,
goes and gets something from Key West, like key lime pie from Key West, and then
yeah.
bring it back to the squadron and they eat.
oh my God, that
Yeah,
sounds like heaven.
different
That's an
I love it.
expensive catering job.
different time in the Navy
Oh yeah.
as we're so fond of saying on this show.
Yeah, right. Yep,
Um,
that's
yeah.
that's awesome.
So where we left off originally, Hooter, we were talking about kind of your transition after the medical stuff you're working through. Obviously, went through postgraduate and then got the job in Korea working for Space Command, and that's kind of where your career then transitions to the Space Command. Can you talk just a little bit about kind of follow on tour from Korea, and then kind of what kept you in the Space Command game? Because obviously that's
Yeah,
something that you transitioned to and still have some kind of dealings with currently.
yeah. It was interesting. I mean, I got to use my graduate degree almost immediately because I went to Korea, and in their O plan 8080 or something, whatever was called, they did not have a space addendum. So I wrote that, um, which I thought was a bold thing for the guy that was in charge of getting that done to just have little old me do it. But I did it. They accepted it, put it in their O plan, and it was cool. It made me feel like, okay, I know what I'm doing, kind of thing. I belong here. Um, when I got orders out of there, I went to Navy Space Command in Dahlgren. Um, but because I was offered an early out, I didn't get the clearances I needed to do the cool things that I wanted to do. I wanted to look at some of the imagery and listen to some of the comms and that kind of stuff. But I was working at Space Command, but I was only there for like say 5 months or something like that because I got early retired out. Um, the option was, and I chose that, the option was go to my third look. It was actually only my second look, but it was equivalently my third look at commander because they had rolled two classes together. I was early select for lieutenant commander, so that kind of gave me another early look for commander. I didn't make it then because I was grounded. I didn't do my department head tour. And so they rolled the classes together, and it was going to be my last look, which would have been my actual second look. It became my last look. And if I had not been promoted on that one, I would have been out with $35,000 and see ya. I wouldn't have any benefits after that. So they offered me a early retirement, about 2 or 3 years early from 20, and I took that. In terms of Space Command itself, I liked being there. It was a neat area. What was very interesting at the Space Command is they had this gigantic computer room that the first time I had been there a few years earlier, while I was at postgraduate school, it had 3 or 4 Cray computers sitting in there, had a whole bunch of DEC mainframes sitting in there. I mean, it was chock full of stuff. When I came back, a very small corner of that whole room was a bunch of Dell computers. That was it. They had taken place of all of the computing power of the 2 or 3 Crays that they had sitting there. And plus everything else, the mainframe that they had for admin ops and that kind of thing. So it was really interesting to see that multiplicative factor, if you will, of this resizing of the computing power from the old days to the new days.
I have a, I mean, I don't really know much about Space Command, and especially back then. I mean, I imagine whether it's GPS satellites and that's going through and, whatever you can talk about, be interested, but were you dealing with intelligence satellite? Was it, communication satellite, all the above, or
All of the
okay.
above. Navy at the time was the largest user of space assets.
Huh.
Because they're in the middle of the ocean, and
That makes
it's
sense, yeah.
tough to get a whole lot of good intel, a whole lot of timely intel, a whole lot of timely communication, good position and navigation and timing and all that kind of stuff. And that was before GPS was widely deployed. There was some GPS going on. I had heard the first GPS speech while I was in postgraduate school. So I was like 2 or 3 years into GPS, maybe a little bit more than that, while I was at Navy postgraduate, I mean, at Navy Space Command. Uh, were we specifically managing the satellites? No, we were the alternate space control center from Schriever Air Force Base. If they became a smoking hole, Navy Space Command became the alternate command center, space operations center.
Okay.
That didn't happen while I was there. Everywhere I went, peace broke out. Remember that. And because I didn't have the clearance, I didn't get to actually go do that stuff.
Okay, like not to the watch
That,
floor to see where all this
yeah.
stuff was. Okay.
That said, um, I still wanted to do that stuff. So when I retired, I eventually ended up in Colorado Springs working as a contractor for CSC, working for Air Force Base Command, Northern Command, when it stood up. And uh, I can't remember what they called the folks in building. Can't remember the number of the building either. It was the people that own Cheyenne Mountain
Okay.
at the time. It was different. It wasn't Stratcom anymore. It was something else, and I'll remember it somewhere in this conversation. But you know, got clearance to go into Cheyenne Mountain, watch the operations in there, see the drills they were doing. I had people that worked for me in there. I had people that were locked in there for a day and a half when 9/11 occurred.
Okay.
On the phone with people, trying to make sure everybody was taken care of, and it was pretty exciting. Those doors swinging shut was like, wow, how could that have possibly happened? And my guys they had no notice. They were just on their regular 8-hour shift, and then they were there for a day and a half, 2 days or something like that with a
Wow.
20-ton door between them and freedom. That said, Cheyenne Mountain put in some new gate controls for as you drive up the mountain to get to the mountain. But it was the same frequency as a whole bunch of the garage doors in the local neighborhood. So as they would open the gate, garage doors would randomly go up and down.
Or garage doors like open the gate, somebody's trying to
No,
get
they were not strong enough to
Oh,
open it.
Thank
okay.
goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
could you imagine that? Like,
That'd be a huge security
who left
concern.
the gate open? It's the Churchills down the street. They just opened.
Oh,
Timmy's got to go to soccer practice. Like,
oh my
yeah,
good
that
God.
was kind of funny.
that's
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 crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, it
Wow.
is. Cheyenne Mountain, interesting place to go. Smells like bean soup.
Oh,
What?
no way, really?
I'm serious.
Do they serve the
think-
same bean soup?
First
Or,
time I went into it, I'm like, holy crap, am I going on a carrier?
or did
It
you actually have
smelled
like a bean
exactly
soup
like a
accident when you were a kid and
And
now
we-
I
everything's
know,
just
right? Like there's something here. There's something more to this.
You're the first person I've heard say it smells like anything has smelled like bean soup, but I'll have to.
You've got
Never
two
been on-
things.
Yeah,
Never
maybe
been
it's-
on the legacy carrier, so that'll be a
We
question
gotta-
I think we ask for future guests of like, all right, so
it's-
on the old
What
carriers,
does the carrier smell
soup?
like? But we can't tell them because if we
that's
tell
true.
them, then
So
they
like
might say
the call
yes.
sign
We
story,
have to just...
and then it needs to be like, what does a carrier smell like? Go. So this is
I
the
love that. Now we need to also find some people who've been at Cheyenne Mountain and ask them
Yeah,
the same
I'm
thing.
waiting for
What does that?
I'm waiting for that category to come up on Jeopardy. I'll kill it.
Oh my God,
got it.
you all win.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
awesome.
that's so funny. Wow.
So
And-
that was it. And that got me into Space Command. I knew I wasn't going to be an astronaut, but just kind of, it's just cool to do that stuff and discuss things and understand what a two-line element set is and understand what special perturbations are and to be able to calculate some of that stuff out and understand how it affects things.
Do you have to explain yourself of like how a satellite goes over if the Earth's flat and
I have met my share of flat earthers.
I hope we debunk that. Like we're now talking for those who are just listening to this sometime in the future. Artemis 2 has landed. We've proved the Earth is round and we've been to the moon. So I think
Y'all,
it's done.
I think that that's true, but I'm telling you, I've also met flat earthers, and you cannot talk sense.
No,
to
you
them.
can't.
There is no
You
sense
can't.
to be talked, so
Well,
it's
no.
just useless.
And I've met Buzz Aldrin. I had dinner with Buzz Aldrin one night.
That's
Did he try to
cool.
punch you? No, I'm just kidding.
He did not.
We didn't have that much to drink.
Yeah.
It was not one of those.
I did not argue with him.
Yeah, right. Well, it's also like, I'm
As a
sorry,
matter
that
of
video.
fact, I had
Go
a
ahead.
discussion with him while he's eating. Me and this guy from Hawaii, I saw him and I just said, I'm gonna go and say hey to Buzz. So I went
Yeah.
over and said, hey Buzz. And he invited us to sit down. We were talking and we were talking about going to Mars and he's like, oh, this different thing. And I said, but why don't you just kind of get a little delta V to go down a little bit so that you can hit one of the satellites, one of the moons, and just get yourself a little bit of a pitch up to the north so you can get up towards the water that's up. He goes, I don't think that'll work. I said, figure out if it will, and you can take the credit.
That would be.
So I was a wise ass with Buzz Aldrin. He didn't punch me out.
It's awesome.
That's
Do
amazing.
you, so in your current role, is it more military centric space, or are you dealing with, NASA and SpaceX and all the likes in some way of
The part that I'm doing right now, and back then it was all acquisition kind of work where I was providing services to people that worked at Air Force Space Command, Army Space Command. There was a little bit of Navy Space Command out there, just a small debt. NORAD, that's what I was looking for, the name, NORAD. It was NORAD at the time, not Space Operations Center. And we were providing IT services and engineering services and that kind of thing. And right now what I'm doing is helping fill out the ungodly amount of paperwork you need to buy a satellite program. Depending on what it does, it's in the 1 billion plus range for a 5-10 year kind of life cycle for a satellite. And a lot of testing, a lot of paperwork, and that's what I do right now with Booz Allen Hamilton. I support the processing of that paperwork, trying to make it happen on time, get to the right people. Not so much the content, although a little bit of the content, I'll dig into more than my bosses want me to. But it's dealing with the no kidding engineers that are building this stuff. And I will tell you, from my perspective, there couldn't be a more accepting group of people than the folks who are at the Space Systems Center, not SMC anymore, Space Systems Center in Los Angeles. I mean, I walk in as a new guy, and it's like I've been there forever. They're asking for my opinion, and they're taking it, and they they understand that you can't always necessarily give an answer off the cuff. You have to look things up. They appreciate that. They accept bad news well because they say, okay, well, that's the way we don't want to do it. We found that out now. Let's go figure out the right way to do it. And it's a very good environment. And for the taxpayers that are listening out there, you're getting your money's worth.
That's good to
You
hear.
really are.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
And did you find it as I mean, it's a way different community, I'm sure, than like a fighter community, but as far as being accepting and going in, it's something that you feel a part of. So that's the
Yeah.
important piece. Like whether
Yeah.
it's the same and how you interact with each other, just being a part of a tribe, I think is the key there. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that leads right to the question I always like to ask, which is what was transition like for you? Leaving the military to, go do Cheyenne Mountain and
That's
then onto
that's a
this.
good question. I'm not sure I handled that well. Um, I It turns out I really enjoyed having the UCMJ as a partner in crime. Yeah, because you could tell people to do stuff and
Yeah,
they would do it.
that's
Not necessarily in the civilian community. You would say
I've heard
things,
that
and
before.
a favorite of some is what's called a pocket veto, where they'll take your idea and they'll pocket it, and they won't say no, but they won't do it.
Hmm.
And it's hard to get good, honest debriefs when you're there because you have to be very careful of some of the opinions. I'm not talking about the current group of people, just other places I've been as a contractor. Um, you would find some things that just made no sense, but you could not change them because the contract was written a certain way and just weird stuff. And it was like, wow, but that's very wasteful. And there wasn't really a good way to approach it because that contract was somebody's promotion, probably. So they all those people were kind of very careful not to have their skills discussed in open session.
Hmm.
So I probably I know one example. I was actually working with Lockheed Martin at the time. We were Loral Systems, got bought by Lockheed Martin. They were before Loral, they were IBM. So it was the IBM culture where it was family. You know, I'm with IBM because my dad and my granddad, my grandmother were with IBM, and we could get a car loan by going in and showing our IBM card or walking in our IBM dark suit and white shirt, and you could get a car loan and get a brand new car for nothing more than a signature. That kind of mentality. And things were changing at the time. The benefits packages were changing. Everything was changing, and the employees were like, "Oh, gee, this is all craziness." So I'm sitting in a meeting, got the president of the division, the marketing people, got the engineers over here, and some other folks, and we're going through this contract, and the customer at Fort Belvoir is kind of concerned about some things, and one of the things the customer had said to me was, "How come you guys tell us you're going to give us zero error or error-free software?" I said, "We do what?" And she said, "You gave in your contract, part of the contract is you will sell us error-free software. I said, who the hell would say that? And she goes, that's right here. Find out what that means for me. So I'm sitting in this meeting. I'll go, who in their right mind said they are going to offer error-free software? Well, it was the vice president that was sitting next to me. He goes, that was my idea. That got that contract. We won that contract because it's error-free software. Well, no, it's not. It has errors, but we fix them. I'm like, that's different, man.
That's leading language right there.
Yeah. And he happened to become a very good friend of mine, but that was like my first week in that job, and I just felt like I had stepped in it, and
Because I love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah. It was just a different environment, and so many changes with the large corporations were going on at the time that, like I said, the IBM culture that died hard. Those people, that was their livelihood. That was their life. They were good for life because they had a job at IBM, and it all changed back in the what Dick Cheney call it, the Black Thursday or whatever it was, when they had that big meeting in the Pentagon and things changed that day, and defined benefit plans disappeared. A whole lot of things changed, and I was out at that. I was in the contractor world at that time, so I wasn't really happy with some of the stuff that was different that way in terms of getting the job done. And I still am a get the job done kind of guy. I got to be pulled back. Go stay in your swim lane. No, because someone's drowning in that swim lane and they need to be helped. And I have an idea, and whether or not it works gets us moving somewhere. And that's still the way I work. And some bosses don't like that, and that's okay by me. I've gotten to be old enough where it doesn't matter anymore.
I'm not changing.
But that was my transition. It was hard for that reason, because I couldn't just spend the night there and get stuff done.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the 9 to 5 versus and then just the attitude.
Someone walking out in the middle of a phone call going, hey, it's time for me to go. We'll continue this tomorrow. Like, what?
Yeah.
How can
No,
you
that does not compute.
Yeah. So I don't think I transitioned as well as I could have.
Sounds like you've retained the important things at this point,
Yeah, it depends on who you ask.
I don't know.
Hooter, as we talk about like transitioning, so the lifestyle is obviously different, and I think we can rewind a little bit because we wanted to discuss, whether it was the culture and the fighter culture. So can you talk to us a little bit about, and maybe just frame it from both your F4 time to your F14 time of what was that fighter culture like, and the O Club. Obviously, there's some stories, but yeah, can you kind of paint us a little picture for that?
I would say a lot of the fighter things you saw on TV back in the day, those aren't stereotypes. That's documentary. It was work hard, play hard. I'm not going to say it wasn't. Were there strippers in the O Club when I was a Phantom pilot? Yes. Were there strippers in the O Club when I was an F-14 pilot? Only on one night a week.
Just one night. That's
one night a week.
I'm gonna say one night overall, and I was gonna say that is not true, but
yeah, right.
Oh my goodness, only one night a week.
Yeah.
Fridays, I'm assuming.
Or I think Wednesdays was the big night, right?
Wednesdays, yeah, Wednesdays were big
Wednesday
too.
Night.
Yeah, Wednesday was like the big night.
Wednesday night.
Shoot.
Well,
Okay.
It did end. The saddest thing I saw were the tail fins of the closed squadrons when the wall came down. That looked like a very horrible graveyard in front of the O Club at Miramar. Yeah. It was just, the decommissioned squadrons had put, a tail fin in the ground there. That was sad. Now I went back to Miramar, I don't know, 2 years ago maybe, and I was trying to get a CAC card. I again didn't pay attention to the instructions, so I wasn't going to be able to get a CAC card that day. But I went over to the O Club and walked through it, and everything's still there. The walks off is still there. It's not called the walks off, but they have a lot of the banner, the placards that people had brought back from their various deployments. They're all Marine placards now. The F-35s were making ungodly noise at Miramar, and the main bar at Miramar, as you walk in the front door, you go off to the left, and you're in the main bar. If you could walk straight, you go into the dining area. All the same, a little bit plussed up, looked pretty nice. Pool was still there; people were in it. So it was still there, but it wasn't an officers' club. It was all hands club or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's changed. Yeah, I think that has to do with the way the funding flows these days.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
How
we've
important was it for you guys, though? I mean, that's seems to be a common theme that, like, I'm thinking about, Puck talking about how you went to the O Club because that was part of your training, and it was part of, like, is that the way it was in the F4 community and the F14
Oh
community
yeah,
on the West
absolutely.
Coast?
Yeah.
Talk about that. I want to hear about what that was like for you and what you learned in that environment in both
It was
places.
it was a lot like being in college again. I mean, you go do your work, and then you go have a couple beers or whatever, or stay until the lights came on, whatever the case may be. Was there some risky business in terms of driving when you shouldn't be? Probably. Yes, there was.
But I don't think
Um,
that, like, what I always bring up too is that wasn't the only community or people that were doing that, right? That was way more socially acceptable
Right.
back
That's
then.
more of
right.
it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Not that
remember,
it's okay, but just
yeah,
that
Right.
we're
We're not
talking
condoning
socially.
that.
we're
Yeah,
Call an
not
not
Uber.
condoning that, and
but remember, this was before the mothers got mad.
yeah,
That date is huge because the
Sure.
Navy honored that, and it became a horrible thing if you're a CO if there was an alcohol related event at a party the CO was at.
hmm
So that's where I think and I don't know if they still do it, sometimes the CO would show up at the going away party, they do the going away, no drinking involved, the CO would leave and then come back. And now he's just Bob. He's not Skipper.
Hmm.
And that, I guess, kind of worked. I don't know, but I do know the first guy that got a DUI when we would not have normally gotten a DUI because he had a couple beers and gets pulled over, and for something else altogether, a light was out
hmm
and they smell alcohol and you give him breathalyzer and he 0.08 or whatever it is. And boom, he gets hit hard. And I mean hard. And that was like, holy cow, that's expensive.
Yeah.
And I think at the time it was not terribly expensive, but still he had to go to court, he had to do the therapy, he had to blah, 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 blah. And then there were also things that needed to go into his jacket, and it was not good. It was not good.
Well, and you
Now,
talk about
was it right that we were drinking and driving? No, it's not.
yeah,
Were we impervious to drinking and we could still drive? Probably not. There's enough horrible stories yeah, it was the right thing to do, but it was different. It was a shock to the system.
yeah. I think there was that part, and then I remember hearing again, we had given away Miramar by that point, so I don't know, but at least Oceana, 9/11 changed a bunch because then they're actually moving fences back away from the O Club, so you're not bussing in people,
Yeah.
young people from colleges to the O Club, and so when that goes away, or it makes it harder to get people on base just based on force protection, it's very
Yeah.
hard to have an O Club culture when it's only the people, and if there's no reason to be there. There's other reasons to be other places. Then it just
Right.
sort of kind of dies on the vine. But
Right.
Yeah.
I
Just
forgot
too
about
bad because
busting
you
people. That did
Yeah.
happen, yes.
really who got bussed in when you were there?
I don't
I
think we want
don't
to say
know
names.
specifically, but on Wednesday nights, a lot of people would show up that were not in the Navy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, they were females.
Yes.
Well, 100%.
Yeah. Heard
I don't know.
heard
My dad
college
will talk
volleyball
about
teams, college,
sure,
that
sure.
type of, yeah.
But
Yeah.
celebrities too, right? I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah. Heard
A
that
few,
before.
yeah.
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 Well, everybody wants to come see what
Jimmy
it's like.
Buffett, right? He came.
Jimmy Buffett, Tom Cruise. My niece got to dance with Tom Cruise and he kissed her on the cheek.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Where was I that day? Just
You're
kidding.
Oh, you
probably
should have
like
been in
two.
the
I
Morrow
was,
Club.
right? I was
You're
like
two.
in the womb.
Yeah.
Oh, by
Wow,
the
that's
way,
cool.
speaking of that, I did fly on your birthday.
What?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I hope nothing bad happened.
No, just regular flight.
Regular fun.
Phew. Phew. That's a good thing. Yeah, but like the learning that happens, it's more than just the drinking. It's the talking about stories, getting those things out and saying, yeah, this happened to me, and hearing about how things went for other people. I was just thinking about this today, actually. Taco, you had liked this post Northern Provisions did about F-18s strafing over Iran with the M61 cannon.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, shit, we just talked about how that happened for the first time in OEF. And like, if you're talking about these things and sharing these stories, it helps you to understand where other people have gone and then, you know,
Yeah.
perfect your tactics. And it's not just drinking, right? Or am I being too generous here, Hooter?
There was learning going on
Yeah.
in those situations. I mean, a lot of times it would start with a debrief from a many v many or 2v2 or whatever. Let's not brief at the squadron. Let's go to the little club, have a couple beers, and let's talk it out. And he'd draw it up on the board and whatever, and then you'd hang out and play. Yeah. One of the things that I do miss was the game of crud. Have you had anyone discuss crud on here?
Puck, I
Very
think, brought it in.
briefly.
And there's somebody we're trying to get it as a guest who's trying to bring it back as a retired aviator. But yeah, because it's
Yeah,
not a
let's talk about
huge
it.
game right now. But yeah, let's get into it because I think that's
Because
good
there are
for the listeners here.
there's Klondike too. Nobody ever talks about Klondike,
Klondike
which
or
was
like
also played.
in my time, it became beer dye.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, let's hear about crud. I don't really know much about
Okay,
crud.
crud was a pool table based game, but it wasn't pool. And if I remember right,
Oh,
there were
McHugh
two
talked
balls
about crud.
involved, and usually four guys at the table, and you had to touch a table at all times. You could not disengage from the table. Something had to be on the table, be that a foot, a face, a hand, whatever. Something had to be on the table the whole time. And the object was to sink the cue ball or the 8 ball or whatever it was that you were shooting at. And there was only one ball for the four people, and you had to take turns. Okay, so you're a little bit drunk. It's very active, small table, a lot of people around watching, and it's a very skillful game. You have
to go around half the table every time to hit the ball.
Yeah,
So like the ball goes to the other side,
the
you have to keep running around to go grab it. Yeah.
And there were some size inequities when I was playing because I was always the smallest guy. So I would frequently get my ass bumped off. But if I could get back to the table in time, I would be fine. You had to be in touch with the table when it was your time to shoot. I guess you could let go of it a little bit, but you couldn't let go of it just to run around somebody. But if you got knocked on your ass, that was fine. So that was fairly frequently in the walks-off at Miramar on Wednesday nights when there weren't strippers, because it was just total craziness in there. The back side of the wall or at the south side of the bar is the back of the men's bathroom. I got bumped out by, I think it was Flex, so hard that I went through the drywall.
Into the bathroom.
I hit between two studs, head and shoulder, and I broke the wall in the bathroom, knocked some tile off and cracked open the wall.
Like scalping?
Yeah.
No.
Me
No.
and Slush Van Horn were playing against two VF 114 guys. I think it was Flex Galpin. I don't really remember, but they were both big, and I got sent through the wall. Next morning, I'm a lieutenant commander at the time. Next morning, I'm in the O Club with drywall, and I'm fixing the wall. I'm cutting it out square, I'm putting drywall in and sealing it up. And Skipper to base walks in, goes, I'm glad to see you're here fixing this. This is real good for VF2 to show that they're showing up. Their senior people are showing up and taking care of the damage that went down last night. Who won the game? So, we kind of talked and I finished up everything. Roll forward to when I'm in Korea, 2-3 years later. I'm setting up the visit for Assistant Secretary of Defense Perry in Korea. And so I'm sitting in the admin room. We had a whole floor in whatever the hotel was. And I'm sitting in the admin room, and in walks this Navy captain. And he looks at me and goes, I think I know you. I go, here, let me get down by the wall here and pretend I'm putting drywall in. He goes, oh, Hooter.
Oh, Hooter.
Like, yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm like, wow, small world. So he remembered it. So that's cool. But it was that was just a lot of fun. I mean, nobody got terribly hurt. The wall could get fixed. The pool table I probably wouldn't want to play on afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's taken some hits. But that was a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the game's actually, it's starting to come back a little bit from what I've heard. There's a former Ripper skipper that is actually trying to, he's a civilian now, but trying to indoctrinate the new RAG students to do that out here in Oceania. So,
Very cool.
Yeah, it's coming back again, I think. And so whether it's, in the O Club or somewhere else too, it can still be. So as long as that camaraderie happening, I think that's the end goal. It's just finding that.
I think that's actually a British game, I think.
Well,
but I don't know.
Sure.
I don't really know. Somebody might have told me something.
I'll have to look it up. I wonder, because I know at Oceania, if your wife called while you were at the club, you had to buy everybody around. Was that the rule at Miramar too?
Yeah. Let's see. Hat on the bar, you buy the bar around. Your wife calls, you buy the house around. You would walk in with the cover, you buy the house around.
Yep.
I think there were a couple other things that you didn't want to do.
Go behind the
bar.
bar.
All of them happened to me. I've had every single one of them happen to me. It's like I walked in, as a matter of fact, in Beeville as an ensign. I walk in, still had my cover on, ding, ding, ding. Oh, shoot. And I threw it down on the bar. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, great.
Ensign's not being paid this month.
Holy cow, there it goes.
just sign your check over to the Beeville Officer Club. Yeah, here you go.
Oh, shoot. That's pretty funny.
Well, wrapping up a little bit, Hooter, as we talked a little bit about transition and the camaraderie and all that, do you have sort of, I won't say life lessons, but if I can obviously think of a theme through your time in the military that's kind of come up a bunch, but what did you take from your military experience and learn from that you still carry with you today?
I still have, and I took from the military experience, the mission needs to get done. And I just can't get rid of that. even when I'm working around the house, I'm slowing it down a little bit, but I would get involved with a job that kind of morphs into something different, and it would be hard for me to stop. I just wanted to get that done. I've learned a little bit of patience because I found that when I get exhausted, I can't do things well anymore. And that's accepting reality, which you have to do as a pilot, as aircrew. If you don't accept the reality of what you are doing in the airplane, you won't be around very long. If you don't learn your own lessons, you're not going to go, and you need to learn the lessons of others.
Yeah.
So, yes, the mission needs to get done, but it also needs to be done well. And that's what I took primarily from the military. Um, the the other thing is that while rank may have its privileges, it also has its responsibilities. And sometimes the responsibility far exceeds your privileges. And if you do it the other way around, you're going to have a very lonely life. Uh, you can you can you can use your experience and your position to help an organization get out of trouble and sacrifice a couple of relationships. But if you do it for everything that you do, you're going to have a horrible life. So you got to kind of temper some of the things that you do.
That's great.
I think that's probably the biggest lesson. Oh, and one other thing. Did you do stern conversions, Taco, in the FAQ?
I did them in the T-39 when I was going through flight school. Yeah.
All right.
40,000 feet of LATSEP. Yeah. What do you want?
That's right. 40,000 feet. That's it. It's what is it? 10 degrees at 40,000 at 40 miles.
Oh yeah. I think it's, oh yeah. I don't know if I can recall those numbers, but I just know
20 at 20.
40,000 feet of LATSEP right there. That's what we're looking for. Yeah.
The other lesson I learned was there's a way to do a good stern conversion. That is, make sure it's going to be just a little hot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's horrible to do a cold stern conversion. And I found that people who drive their cars in most cities are doing cold stern conversions when they're merging traffic from a crossing street. They let the car go by and it's out of sight, and then they'll turn like, come on, man, heat that baby up. Put some weight on that guy.
That's great advice. That's awesome. I think it's that you still pull out stern conversions driving a car in the city. That's amazing. Heat it up. Heat it up.
Yeah. So that's what I've taken from my experience.
Those are some good life lessons. I like that.
Yeah, that's like a very good smattering of like practicality and
yeah.
I would say from talking with you, Hooter, thing that I took, just how your career went and what you did would be just kind of embracing the fate and like what you just had, you found the positive in everywhere you went, everything you did. And I think that's something that doesn't happen often, especially with Navy careers, if it goes some way that you're not thinking it's going. But that's something that I took away from our conversation so far. So that's awesome.
I appreciate that. I'm not sure there's all my friends and relationships believe that is part of me, but
we got a couple years on where it's, the little rose-colored glasses. That's okay.
that's how it was for me. I mean, because you just can't do stuff about it. And I think my dad set me up for that. Ask for anything you want, you might not get it. Move on.
Yeah. It's such a metaphor for life in general. And if you can roll with those punches when you get something that isn't the card you wanted, you can really imagine what you do when you get the card you do want, you know?
Just be where you are.
And you also get a little bit sneaky with that too. You become very inventive on how you work your way through problems. It's not necessarily the easy way out, but sometimes it gets you where you need to be a little conniving, a little bit.
Kind of like that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
I do like that. Yeah, you can always find a way to make the good.
Yeah,
And sometimes you do have to
everything
manufacture
can
it.
be negotiated.
Yeah, with a little underhanded behavior.
Sneaky.
That's fantastic. Is there anything you wanted to talk about with us that we didn't ask? Like any closing words or any parting stories that you want to share?
Um, I'll think of 100 when we're after we
Right?
So
disconnect.
You'll just have to come back for
we can do,
cowboy
yeah,
time if
we
you
can
do. That's
do
the
a Cowboy
whole,
10
yeah.
second guest.
Yep.
Um, you know what? I want to leave it with, I had a good time. There were times that were frustrating, but it always seemed to turn out that there was another fun thing that was going to happen. It always turned out that it was going to be okay. You know, um, had a lot of friends that aren't around anymore. Um, I, I, I remember being told about, I was out and a friend of mine was still in and he died and it was like a gut punch. It still had friends that were, put to rest at sea. And that I'll never forget. I mean, there's memories of people gone 40 years that I'll never get rid of. And it's just a lot of good people, mostly good people, um, and a very interesting lifestyle. It was a lot of fun. Period.
Well said.
I agree. I love the way that you put that. There was always another good thing that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually had a patch, and my skipper made me take it off because, as it turns out, it was thought to be not a good thing from the enlisted point of view. I had a patch called on the outside of it, was a fancy Navy looking patch. It said, join the Navy or something like that. One good deal after another. I literally believe that, but it's one of those things that apparently enlisted guys would have that patch on their
Sarcastic.
civilian jacket.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, it was a pejorative. I had it because I thought, yeah, I was only getting good deals as far as I was concerned.
It's all perception. It's always a good deal if you perceive it that way.
Yeah.
I love that. If you have any of those patches, I'll trade
I
you a
did not.
mug for one.
Last time I
Damn.
saw that was on the scheduling book.
That could be that should be a zap for the podcast, Beth. We could do
one good deal.
Can
one good deal after another. Oh, we can make that. Why not? It's not a Navy issue patch.
I love
we
it.
can make,
I
we can make
love
some
it.
zaps.
I think we should. I feel like we should have a QB dog patch too, just for you. I mean, you already have it. You don't need another one.
Trademark.
There's there's a lot of Kubi dogs and Tyrians.
Yeah, I would feel bad having one if I didn't actually ever eat one.
True.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of like the
100.
however many traps.
Or
Good Lord, that is a lot of hot dog. That's a lot of processed meat for one
I
stomach
wonder
to
why I
hold.
have high blood pressure,
It's all back to those 100 dogs. Oh my goodness, this has been such a great time, and I so appreciate. I think a lot of people don't want to talk about the things that happen at the O Club, and I'm glad that we got to talk about some of those things that they're a lot of people didn't get to see them, but that's what really happened. And I love that you gave us that look into what it was like, and your career is so amazing, and it's been just amazing to hear about
Question
it.
for Taco, real quick.
Ooh.
Still do Liar's Dice and Ship Captain Crew or whatever it was, the dice games,
we played dice. Yep.
and Liar's Poker with dollar bills.
I have not done Liar's Poker, so I don't know if that's I am not a huge card player, so maybe that's not. What about Ace Deuce? Did you play Ace Deuce?
Ace Deuce, yeah.
That's always a good one too. So
Yeah.
teach your kids how to count.
Yeah. Those are fun games played.
Yeah.
The Liar's Poker is you have a dollar bill and you're
Okay.
betting on, you have 5 guys playing or whatever. You bet on how many numbers. I have 7 aces or I've got 5 8s.
I may have played that game. That sounds actually familiar now that I'm thinking about it. Long time ago.
I would save dollar bills that I would get for a long time because they had good betting numbers on it.
Oh.
like a bunch of fives or a bunch of ones.
Because it's the number on the dollar bill, right?
The serial number
Yeah,
of
the
the dollar
serial.
bill?
I do
Okay.
remember this. Yeah, where people would actually hold on to dollar bills for like, oh, this one's got, whatever numbers on it. I do
Yeah,
remember
I'll
that.
bring this one out at this place.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
I do vaguely remember that.
That's
It's a while
crazy.
ago.
Man, all this just makes me want to go to the O Club and see
Yeah,
if
in
anybody
Key
knows the
West, we
games.
played it so much that we invented a rule that was you can't play with a dollar you have in your wallet. You have to cash in a five and get five ones, and you have to play with one of those.
There you go.
So
They all have to be
yeah, I mean,
unknown cards.
Too many
Change it.
cheaters.
Unknown cards, yeah.
That's so funny.
That's amazing.
I mean, it's liar's poker. What did you expect, y'all?
That's all I have. I'm sure I'll think of stuff later on.
That's good. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
you'll
always-
have to come
yeah.
back
Bring you on for a
and
cowboy
share
time
other
and-
stories.